Saw something weird on Twitter. Want to give my opinion on this because it just seems like the more the RWBY fandom talks nowadays, the more you feel how they have absolutely no self-awareness. And, the whole fandom is not like this. We're talking about the vocal minority of the fandom. Hopefully the fandom as a whole is not like this, at least. But let's take a look at this tweet. It reads, people need to come to terms with the fact that Qrow quit alcohol for good. He's in a much healthier state of mind now, thanks to RWBY. And Qrow and Ironwood hopefully are going to help him get better. Those who prefer Volume 3 Qrow over present Qrow are not trustworthy. Now, that's the weird part. Not trustworthy. What do you mean not trustworthy? How can you claim that everyone who prefers Volume 3 Qrow over current Qrow is not trustworthy? There can be any number of reasons why people prefer Volume 3 Qrow or 2 or 1 or any volume before current Volume Qrow. Although, the more extreme examples would be like Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4 Qrow. Because after Volume 4, that's when the character started going downhill. Started doing stuff that seemed out of character, started being completely nerfed in his fights, to the point where people have to make headcanon theories that, he was still affected by Tyrion's poison at Haven, despite that not being confirmed one way or the other. But here's the thing. You can't just say people are not trustworthy, and you can't say that he's quit alcohol for good either. That's a huge reach, a huge assumption that people are going to call them out for in the comments. We'll take a look at the comments here in a moment. But I personally love characters who deal with internal struggles. That's why Hay from Darker Than Black is one of my favorite characters. Got immense internal struggles, but he's a good character. And Qrow is the same. Got a lot of internal struggles, but tries to do the right thing. And Volume 3 Qrow, if we're talking about Volume 3 specifically here, because that's what this person wrote, it's more interesting because you see him struggle with the alcoholism, with the mourning, with having to work on his own, with holding these secrets from the people and working as Ozpin's, right-hand guy, so to speak, his information collector, his Odin's Raven, if you want to call back to those theories back in the day. So because we prefer a in-depth, complicated character who has flaws, because that's the other thing. I personally love characters that have flaws. I don't like characters that are all like perfect. I find them very boring. And a lot of people, I think, agree with that. Characters that are flawed, especially heroes that are flawed, are very interesting. And that's one of the reasons why people like older Qrow. He was completely flawed, but still a good guy trying to do the best that he could. And just an all-around awesome character. Whenever he was on screen, you knew it was going to be a good time. Nowadays, Qrow's on screen, it might be a hit or a miss. Might just be a meh, not a great scene. So for this person to go and say, like, anyone who prefers older Qrow is untrustworthy is such a weird take, to be honest. It's just very odd. So let's take a look at some of the responses, though. Winter Schnee, says, it's only been like 2 days since his last drink and story. Not even. The response, there was definitely a short time skip in Chapter 3. Winter says, definitely not enough to justify saying he's fully sober. He hadn't drank in a bit, so we believe. But as an ex-alcoholic, I got to say it. What happens when he's alone? He's an alcoholic. If they're going to have him go sober, it's going to be a plot point. Ruben says it already was, and he made his final choice in the finale. He might relapse at some point if something happens. Maybe, but for now, he's actively choosing not to drink. So that's a great point from Winter. Whoever this person is, saying that they're ex-alcoholic, good for them for stopping. And I do know a lot of people who are alcoholics. It also runs in my family a bit. And yeah, it just seems very unfair to Qrow to say, like, he's quit for good and everything's going to be fine now, and that he's in a better state of mind. He's really not necessarily in a better state of mind. For example, the scene with Clover, I know a lot of the weird people out there love to say that this suddenly means that they want to bang, but that's not really the takeaway from that scene. In my opinion, the reasonable assumption from that scene is Qrow looks at Clover kind of like as an inverse of himself. They have a very similar semblance. It's almost identical, because if Qrow is causing misfortune to those around him, including his enemies, that can help his allies or hurt his allies. If Clover is causing good fortune to everyone around him, including his enemies, that could hurt his allies and help his enemies. So both of them, in a way, are kind of the same semblance, and there's no such thing as misfortune or good fortune when it's just a passive, area of effect around you. Now, it can get a little more complicated than that, especially when you channel the semblance and try to focus it, which canonly Qrow can do, so I would assume Clover can. But to be fair, we probably need a little bit more information on Clover's semblance. But the fact is, you have these two characters, and Qrow being flawed and hating his semblance and not liking being a team leader and preferring to be on his own, sees that maybe there are other ways for him to go about living his life that Clover kind of represents. It's a very cool parallel, and there's a lot of depth to that scene and those interactions. And the people who just sit there saying, oh, they just want to bang, these people are so shallow-minded, and I'm going to just say it, man, pathetic. Like, come on. Rooster Teeth, they're putting in, like, good work here to try to make the characters look good. I'm actually throwing Rooster Teeth a bone here. I'm saying that was a good scene. It was a good scene. It looked good for Clover. It looked good for Qrow. It showed character depth and maybe some character development on the way as well. And some foreshadowing for things to come. And what do the weirdos get out of it? They want to bang. That's literally their takeaway. My gosh, man, I criticize RT a lot. I'll give them compliments here and there. And I certainly think they did well on that one. And it's so weird to me that when RT does something well in the story, the vocal people don't even acknowledge it and completely misrepresent what really happened. It's like, what? These people are living in a parallel world or something. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Let's take a look at a few more of these responses here. I don't know if he's necessarily completely quit yet, but it certainly seems like he's beginning to make the effort to quit. This is a much better take. That's fair. It does seem like he's making an effort not to drink, as opposed to having the flask always full and taking a swig whenever he wanted. I agree with that one. He's making attempts, but you can't just say he's done and like in a better mindset now. That also downplays how serious it is, like alcoholism. If you think Qrow can suddenly just be done and, let's just say the time skip was even like a week or two. You know what? Let's say the time skip was a month. It definitely wasn't anywhere near close to a month, I don't think. But even a month is not enough for someone to say, all right, I'm definitely done, not an alcoholic anymore. My gosh, man, that's some stuff that can research throughout your life for the rest of your life. The rest of your life. So you're calling people not trustworthy when you're the one misrepresenting how alcoholism is and not understanding the character depth that's been going on there. Who's really the one that's not trustworthy? The guy making a hot take with misinformation or the other people? My gosh. So let's take a look at some more of these comments. I think Qrow has every full good intention to quit because he knows it angers his family, but that doesn't mean we should assume that he won't relapse. He's a recovering alcoholic, but if something goes wrong, like a character death, he may hit the bottle again. Well said. I want it to be like a Euphoria thing, where the show really tests his strength or character and commitment to being a better person at one point. He does actually stay an alcoholic in the end, though. He's been uncharacteristically quiet and observant in these episodes. Part of me would like to believe that he's quiet because Ruby stood up to him, meaning she and the kids aren't exactly for taking the back seat anymore. But it also seems like he's taken back a little bit by the environment and recent encounters. It seems like Clover isn't common for him. Yeah. I mean, the whole Clover thing, I think, was a bit of a reality check. They aren't ready for the fanfics where Qrow alcoholism isn't something to move the plot. Wait, they aren't ready for the fanfics where Crow's alcoholism. Okay, I don't know what that's about. I guess that's implying that a lot of fanfics rely on Crow's alcoholism or something. I think that's throwing shade at fanfiction writers. I don't know. Plus, where Ironwood and Clover fight over who get to stay with Qrow, but that's something. Oh wow! So just talking about shipping Ironwood and Qrow now, like is that what this is about? Fight over who gets to stay with Qrow. Oh my gosh! Okay, so there you go. The person who's talking about shipping starts by throwing shade at people, insulting them and their work, and then going on to talk about who gets Qrow. Wonderful. I'm so proud of him. Also, I need to start a people who can't be trusted RT edition list. Right now, people who prefer Volume 3 Qrow and people who can pronounce Valentina's last name smoothly. Sure, okay. So you mean like Russians and other Eastern Europeans? Whoa. What? I meant from Genlock, Mark A. Okay, I don't even know what these people are all getting about. Weird. I don't know enough about Genlock to comment on that. We have Mama Shanita replace the inebriated character type. I'm so proud of this fictional characters like Jeff going sober all over again, except where there's no you know what. I think showing him struggle a little with quitting is fine, though. It doesn't have to be a big scene either. Just a small detail like him tossing the flask away where he attempts to drink. I mean, they did it very well in Dark of the Black Season 2 with Hay when he got over his alcoholism, or for the most part did. That was a rough thing, man. And I think, to be fair, Qrow's been drinking way longer than Hay was in Season 2. That was like not a very long thing for Hay. After everything went bad, he started drinking. But it seems like Qrow's been drinking for like, 10, 20 years. So there's a big difference there. I think showing, okay. Also, now that Qrow isn't always drunk and he's starting to realize he doesn't need to be alone, Ironwood happy to see him. Clover counteracts bad luck. I want to see his willpower grow as his friendships do. I mean, that's also like a lot of the people using that, like Clover counters him so they must date. Now, this person didn't necessarily talk about shipping, but I mean, let's be honest. I think they have a She-Ra profile picture. So, yeah, I think Oh, you can't even see it. Well, whatever. Be thankful you can't see it. Be thankful you can't see it. I'm blocking it. Anyways, the point is, you can't just say Clover counters the bad luck, because you can easily make the argument that Qrow counters Clover's semblance. So it's a problem for Clover, not that it's a good thing. And I already made the argument that, they're basically the same semblance. You can talk about that, but I don't want to get so into depth about that. That's the end of this thread. Just a little bit of a discussion on that weird take. In my opinion, a weird take. But hey, people disagree with me. That's totally fine. And I'm fine with this person having their opinion. But I have all the right in the world to talk about my opinion as well. So I will do such. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I don't have shout-outs yet because I just released the Vic litigation update video 30 minutes ago. So I will group some shouts out in the next video or so. If you guys want to do more support this channel, consider commenting down below, liking, becoming a channel member, or checking out the Patreon, all that sort of thing. And sharing this video, of course, helps as well. And I'll see you guys next time.